that is a huge motivating point for me, telling me I can't. He told me in no uncertain terms I can't, and I said, well, we'll see about that. So I dug in and gave it my best shot, and I got lucky. So, persistence or stubbornness. I'll take either one. I hope you have it. Give it a whirl. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to lose. Most politicians lose many times before they succeed. They lose over and over and over. They get better every time. They learn how to fundraise. They learn how to talk to people. They learn how to meet people. They learn how to network. It's not always a win on the first try. Back to the stupid stubbornness. Keep trying. Thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to open it up to your questions. As you formulate what you want to ask this tremendous group of panelists, I should mention something else about Theresa Ma and her legislative district that she represents. As Hamilton noted, having 24% of your constituencies being, in this case, Chinese Americans, seems like a huge number, and it is. However, in her district, 75% roughly were Latinos. The previous representative was a Latino. And so there was a legacy of Latinos representing this district. So even though there was 24, 25%, that 25% could not have gotten her into office unless she got the majority, that's other 75%, to understand what her campaign was about and to decide for themselves whether she would be a better voice for their issues, their concerns, their needs, than the previous persons who had won that position. So I think there's a big lesson for all of you that they are sharing, which is to get out there, to be stubborn and persistent in your getting out there. So you introduce yourself to someone and the person blows you off. No, that's just one person. Try the next person, and the next person, and the next person. Because the only thing that keeps us apart is our fear of perhaps not being accepted. But once you do it, you will find that there are more people who want to talk to you than those who don't want to talk to you and to be engaged by you. Let's take a question from this distinguished audience that we have out there.
Can I make one comment? So, I always speak for the underrepresented, right? So I wanted to speak for Janice, who is the only Caucasian here, but anyway, not only. So Janice actually helped me to write the application for the school board when the position opened for somebody retired, somebody moved. So, you know, I just do it, right? But I didn't get it. I'm so grateful. Jenny Young is our newly appointed school board member. Can you stand up so that people know about you? Okay. So my point is that thank you so much, Janice, for your help and also for your trust. And so I think that speaks a lot about us need to build coalitions, and I've been friends with Dr. Holton for how many years? So I make him become half Chinese now. So anyway, I think it is important. It's really that we are all the citizens of the earth, and we all share very. We do have several more Caucasian or faces, but I mean the point of it is that we are all the citizens of the world. We all have a common values and characters we share and we value deeply. So I think this is just beautiful that we got to know each other, and once we got to know each other well, and appreciate each other very well. So it's not the differences that we should focus on, it's the commonalities we should focus on. But anyway, thanks, Janice. All right, questions, sorry. Can you start talking to see what
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, cool. Well, as you guys are of your community and everything, you guys have a lot of responsibilities. And you know, you guys may or may not make the best decisions. How do you guys handle decisions that don't always end up well? Have you guys regretted it? How do you guys kind of overcome these?
All leaders have to make tough decisions. And every single decision you're going to make is not going to make every single person happy. Almost invariably, you're going to make entire groups of people unhappy. What I've learned is, if you look into your heart and you're trying to do something positive and good in a good way for as many people as possible, you can often live with your decision even if it is not perfect and doesn't help every single person. And you may take a lot of heat for that. A big part of being an elected official is having this incredibly thick skin. And that's, again, due to these tough decisions. It's not always going to go well. You have to be prepared for it. So if you're going to go into office or become a leader, let's get that skin growing in a very thick way. But also be able to live with your decisions so you can sleep at night.
I think one of the things that I look at is do your homework, do your research, get many different opinions, not just staff, not just, say, for instance, the county board, maybe it's a development issue. Get staff, get the petitioner, get the homeowners, talk to them, learn all about them, and then try to bring them together. In my job as a county board member, we have the committee structure, we're able to do that. Now, maybe not so much as a legislator, but you certainly have lobbyists and different people come, but you know, bring parties together. Try to find those win-win. It's not always as presented. That's why we have many different groups petitioning different political bodies, governmental bodies, because we try to find that win-win on that. So do your homework, but just do what's in your gut, what's right, because you were the one that was elected, so you have to carry that. When, you know, like I said, like Paul said, maybe some people are going to be upset. It is what it is. But if you do things with the right intention to do, you know, to represent your area, and if it believes in what you believe in and why you were elected, then it's a good decision. Now, the voters will have that, just, you know, opportunity. If they didn't like those decisions you made, to unseat you. Again, oh well. I mean, certainly we all want to win, but I think we all want to do what is right first. And we'll take those as they come. And it works out. I always say it works out. And you do want to sleep well at night, but do your homework and go from the heart.
I don't know if I have any more to add to that. I think those were both really great answers. Yeah, I find myself every single day having to face decisions where it involves a consideration of, you know, how the decision will affect my constituents, and, you know, so there are also sometimes considerations of, you know, how it'll affect my voters. I mean, sometimes my voters and my constituents aren't, you know, 100% aligned, right? Because people vote at different rates, and then there are also, you know, other considerations, including, you know, folks who have supported me or endorsed me, and so, you know, there's a huge calculation that always, you know, has to happen, but I think that, you know, doing the right thing and being able to articulate your reasons, and for me, you know, most of the time, the consideration for how the decision affects my constituents is the #1 reason for how I vote on something, or whatever it is, the decision that I make. And so, you know, I'm faced with these decisions every single day, but being able to communicate, you know, with my constituents, my voters, my supporters, and to, you know, talk it through, you know, is very important, but it's also important to always do the right thing, be able to sleep at night, and yeah, have a clear conscience.
So, advice-wise, I don't have much much to add. It's just, your question is great. Just be aware, if you do step up and decide to do what we've done, nowhere else, whether you're an insurance agent or you're a chemist or an engineer at Motorola, you can make hundreds of decisions, right? Investment decisions and whatnot. And your constituency is that big, right? Somebody, it affected somebody down the line, blah, blah, blah. Just expect that people will not be happy with you. And that's true for an elected decision, right? An elected official's decision. That's true for things that aren't even in your control, right? Again, 4 children, I traveled a great deal for business. People will pop up because they pay, and I got paid, I think as a township trustee, I think I got paid $20 a month. And yet, right, those 57,000 people in our district, they have a piece of me. And so they will speak up. Hey, Commissioner Chang, hey, Trustee Chang, you left your recycling out for 2 days. You gotta get your recycling, you got the green cart, you gotta get it off the street. You can't leave it out there because I was traveling and my wife or my kids didn't do it. Just expect it and roll with it, right? There's gonna be plenty of criticism. It's just that in our positions, it's just so public. And so you just gotta expect it. Expect the disagreement. And then, right, lean into it. That's it.
Let's take 1 or 2 more questions before our break. Oh, let me get the gentleman up here.
Sure. I think I can speak a lot, we talk a lot, encourage the next generation to participate, our leadership and engage, all the social activities to become activists. And as a traditional, I would say, our Chinese or Chinese American family, education and academic is always on top of almost everything. And I heard over, a couple of our, panelists talking about that they changed their majors from a pre-med, right? So I would think that's probably take a lot of challenge because the first thing you got to go through your parents. I think that's what I'm brought up is, we are encouraging our next generation, and I also see a quite number of parents here. And how are we going to, encourage our kids from a parent standpoint of view, and to be a social engaged and contribute to our community and society? Because so we feel that number one, we always think of GPA, the SATs, and even whatever the top universities. But at the same time, how we balance that. I think that's my question. Maybe a 3 more.
Yeah, I have an answer to that. When I was telling my story, I wasn't necessarily saying that you can't be pre-med in order to be a civic leader and be socially engaged. I think that one of the messages that I was trying to convey was that you can be civically engaged no matter what profession you're in, because anybody can volunteer, anyone can organize, anyone can support a candidate or contact an elected official. I mean, those are all different forms of engagement. And you could still be a medical doctor and be engaged in your, engage with your elected official, be a member of your elected official's advisory council. You could get appointed to any number of boards. They're all different ways to be civically engaged. And, I think Hamilton and I both mentioned that you don't have to be the one who runs for office, but being involved in some way is what we're all encouraging here. The other thing I would say about, Chinese immigrants encouraging their kids to do well in school, and I think that's all well and good. It's part of, my advice to build your competence in some field, But I would also say that we should feel free to invest our time and energy in something that we can be passionate about, right? So I wasn't passionate about being pre-med, but I found my subject matter, I really enjoyed history, and I wanted to study Asian American history, and so that was my passion. And I think that, parents should feel, have the confidence in their kids to make the right decisions, that, young people here know what, you can make the decisions about what you're passionate about, and once you find that, you put your all into it. And, if it's, getting, achieving good grades and doing well in college in order to support that passion and to build that expertise, then, that's fine, that's great, that's the route. And the encouragement from Chinese parents to do well in school, if it is about getting the best education possible, that should include learning to be good critical thinkers and being able to do well in whatever field, not just, those three, finance, medicine, what was it? STEM, right. I mean, one can be successful in any number of fields as long as it's, where your passion is, and you allow your kids to go after, their passions and really put their energy into that. And, it's from any of these different fields that you can be civically engaged. I mean, there's no one major that you have to be a civically engaged person. You don't have to major in political science or history. I mean, you can be anything and be civically engaged in any number of ways. So that's my answer.
My answer will include, listen to your parents, exactly the point, they kind of know you the best, at least my parents did with me. But another activity is that not everyone, to our points we've made several times, have to run for office. But being good citizens, being good taxpayers, being critical taxpayers, critical meaning critical thinkers of challenge us. I'm not going to pick on the state, no, they're easy to pick on, but not necessarily. Or the school district, why, they spend more of your tax money than anything around there. I'm glad Paul's there, because he's going to think about how we're spending the money in the best possible way. So, any of you, when you become homeowners, and I hope you stay here in Illinois, but I'm afraid many of you are going to leave, but I hope you don't. Stay here. When you buy your home or get engaged, you start a family, and you're working, whatever that may be, or wherever that may be, read your tax bill. That's how you get involved. If you don't like the way things are going in your community, your school district, your county, your state, you go ask questions, okay? Because if you don't ask the questions, and you don't show your passion towards it, then we will become a society or a government that one or two people rule. And that's not the way it is. It should not be that way. We have a certain gentleman in Illinois who's been in leadership position, although I like the gentleman. He's been there 40 years, and that's not always good. He's a good man, but it's about the elections. It's about winning elections, not about serving you. But it's really, so I give thought to think about being that good citizen, asking questions, voting. If you do nothing else, vote. Look into who the candidates are, whether Republican, Democrat, nonpartisan. Try to find out who these people are, ask questions to other neighbors. We have a wealth of knowledge on the internet. Find out who they are and what they stand for. And I think that's the most important part of being civically engaged.
I'm a parent, and on my way out the door this morning to come to this conference, my daughter asked me, why do you have to spend so much time volunteering? And my answer to her was, for you. And she says, I don't understand that. You're leaving here to spend less time with me. And I told her, if I told you to work really hard and I didn't, or if I told you not to do drugs and I did, on and on and on, would I be setting a good example for you, and how likely would you be to follow my example? She says, I get it. So I think the best way you can teach your children to be leaders or to be civically involved is to do so yourself. Set that example, go out and serve others, and your children will see you doing this and hopefully follow in your footsteps.
I was going to say, real quick, so, again, I'm trying to make eye contact with not just people of our generation, but the younger guys, all right? I'm asking this question very sincerely, because I think you guys traditionally, look at Chicago, greater Chicagoland, where are the Chinese immigrants coming from, right? Taiwan, Singapore, China. And then where do they go? What professions do they have? When they come here, we talk a lot about STEM because they went to Bell Labs, they went to Motorola, they taught at Northwestern, they taught at UC, they taught at UIC, they taught at Concordia. That's, in our parents' generation, my parents' generation, and maybe my generation, that was the route in. That was the route into American society. That was the route into getting your citizenship, is that filling that academic spot, filling that STEM spot, whether it was math, engineering, scientists, etc. I don't think we have that same dynamic today. I may be wrong because I'm older, and then I have 21-year-old and below, and then I'm older myself. But when I talk to the 27-year-olds and the 26.7, almost 27-year-olds, but when I talk to the new immigrant Chinese, our business, the Mandarin Leader, right? That's Mandarin Communications Group. That's our magazine. That's our magazine. That's our events page. A lot of what we do is business in the new Chinese. So the magazine is either Mandarin Leader or Mandarin Quarterly, and a lot of what we hear from those kids, 25 to 35-year-olds, that they don't have the same constraints or pressures put on them with respect to, being a scientist or being a doctor. Many of them that I have met in the last 10 years feel very, very comfortable saying, I want to be an entrepreneur. Very, very comfortable saying that I want to do something of music, something other than, right, so the traditional, stereotypical Chinese or Asian American paths into professional society here. Is that, I don't know, you younger folk, do you feel just that much pressure just to stay in math or be a scientist? I'm asking. Or not? Or do you feel like you can do whatever you want? You can feel like you can choose whatever profession you want? Yeah?
So
More open?
I hope it's more open, because I think that, there is a tendency in Chinese immigrant culture to, be respectful of one's elders. And I'm not saying don't be respectful to one's elders. I'm not saying that at all. But I think that, in American society, and because we're doing this conference for youth, I think we need to give our youth more credit and put more trust in them to seek their passions. Youth might feel pressure from your parents' generation to, and I would say a lot of that pressure might be shaped by their own experiences of, where the jobs are, what the stable professions are, right? But, it is a different world, and I agree with you that, you need to think outside the box in order to be a successful entrepreneur. And so, to a certain extent, I think the youth should feel more confidence in themselves to you know, figure out, you know, what your passions are, what you're capable of. You know, your parents want the best for you, and you can achieve that by finding your passion and building a competence in that area, whatever it may be.